morning. My name is Jessica Washington Gutierrez.
I should have introduced you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I can do the introduction of. I should know myself well enough by now. So I'm Jessica Washington Gutierrez. I'm running for alderman here in the 30th ward. This is the churches in the 30th ward. I'm running because I think that it's really time, and we see it across Chicago, for an independent and progressive voices to be sent to City Hall. I've grown up on the northwest side of Chicago my whole life. My parents and I have made a very normal move westward. I moved to Belmont and Pulaski when I was about 15, and it has been home to me since then. And whether I was in southern Louisiana while I was doing my PhD, or abroad finishing a doctoral fellowship in Israel and Palestine, public service has always been at my core my whole life. Working with new Latino residents that helped rebuild New Orleans after Katrina, and helping them either fill out DACA applications or organizing them, right, to fit into their new home, right, what they made, southern Louisiana, which, if you could imagine, right, being Latino in Chicago when we're one of the epicenters of immigration reform, right, is kind of, probably you feel more of a sanctuary here. I mean, in southern Louisiana, I mean, everything from women's reproductive rights and, immigration reform is being challenged, right? So those are the kinds of things that I was doing while I was a graduate student, and they really did reach out to graduate students to come out and organize. I left off to Israel, Palestine for 2 years, where I was at the Hebrew University, and I was a teacher there in Palestinian public schools, teaching. They were all girl schools because the schools are separated by gender, and so I taught English while I was a graduate student. And I think what really, just to give you a little bit more of my background, right, what really happened, I couldn't submit my ballot. 10,000 American citizens living in Israel, Palestine could not submit their absentee ballots, or when they did, they either didn't get the ballot, which I know is it's a problem that we have. It's a broken system of absentee ballots, and I jumped on a plane and I came back home because I felt like it was time that I just felt that call. I know that at the women's marches after Trump won, millions of women felt the call to become more politically active. And after working as the field director for our new congressman, Jesus Garcia, and with our new state rep, Delia Ramirez, I decided to run in my own ward, because 16 years of inaccessible leadership and an alderman that's set to auto-approve is not what we need in the 30th ward. It's not what we need in Chicago. And I'm ready to challenge that system and to return the power and the voice back to the people, to organization like this, right? I think you said it right. I think that what LSNA has been doing for decades is what we need to push out to the rest of Chicago. And the only way we're going to do that is that if we engage our community members, if we have transparency, if we have accountability, if we have accessibility. When you go to an alderman's office during ward night or whatever it may be, you should be speaking to your alderman. And I can't, I've had my own issues. It's also about development without displacement, right? And really speaking to the community members. Where are the forums, right? Where's the participatory budget? I was at a forum on Saturday with the 29th ward, the 31st ward, and the 30th ward. And Alderman Rebuena said that he has a participatory budget. I would be on it if it existed. So, lying about these certain things, it's really what has revved that engine for me to go even, harder in the race, and to really, we have knocked thousands of doors in the past 11 months. We have gone out and spoken to the community, and it was really disheartening to hear the words lost, as I decided to take a tally of every time I heard a word. Right? And the word that I heard the most was lost. I understand why in this community you can feel so lost, right? The 30th ward is a chunk here, a bridge here, and a chunk here. Is that about right?
Mm-hmm.
And looks like interesting earmuffs. We need a bridge. There's a bridge in our map, and we need to personify, right? We need to be a person in that bridge, and I want to be that person that bridges two very different, seemingly different communities together, right? There's a majority Latino community on the west side and a very changing east side. On the east side is where I grew up. A lot of the new residents are my peers. They're part of my generation. I know how to talk to them, but I also understand the culture, the idiosyncrasies, and the language of the west side. And I think that having someone that's going to be a powerful voice, a bold voice, and a fierce voice downtown is how we're gonna change the 30th ward. And somebody's gonna listen to the community, right? Let's have the advisory committees, not only for adults, but for the youth. And someone who's gonna come to these meetings every month. Are they held monthly?
Yes.
Bi-weekly?
Yes.
Monthly.
Why not? It's an hour. It's an hour.
Yep.
It is not that difficult to ask for 1 hour. We should not have part-time aldermen, right? Our residents deserve full-time leadership and representation. So that's what I want to do. So I'm so lucky to be here tonight, and we have 8 days left, and we are gonna hustle those last 8 days. So I'm excited to get back out there. I'm excited to work with you. And you have this on camera. I promise to work with you, because I think that these organizations should be the anchors of our communities. Our schools should be the anchors. Our neighbors should be the anchors. The residents should be the anchors. We should be pushing for police accountability. We should be pushing to help all of the citizenry that lives in the city, and help with property taxes. We should be pushing for an elected school board, because it's the parents and the residents, not bureaucrats downtown, who should be making the decisions. Those are the things that I want to push for, and I can't wait to work with you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Any questions?
I have some questions.
Okay, go ahead.
So you mentioned a lot about how on the east side specifically how the neighborhood is changing,
Yeah.
and you mentioned about developing in a smart way, and then
Yeah.
also being transparent. So how do you anticipate handling things like zoning change requests in your neighborhood, in our neighborhood?
You come and join me. Why is it that I always see that when zoning happens, it's always the developer speaking to the community? We should be asking the questions, right? I mean, and I don't want to do this. This is not, aldermen, essentially in my head, are community organizers. So I think that the best way to hold me accountable and to create transparency is to have my community and have that advisory committee who actually has a voice, right? So I think that that's what's important, is that you sit down there with me and that we make those decisions together. And I think that the best way to start that, and while it isn't perfect, is to have a participatory budget, right? Where we engage and we bring in from both sides of the community. There's a whole institute at UIC and at other universities that helps residents engage aldermen. I mean, with me, you don't even have to do that. Step one is done. Let's just put it together. I think that that's how we could deal with zoning, so that we're not displacing residents who have lived here for generations. I grew up the first part of my life in Bucktown. I've seen a very aggressive form of gentrification with neighbors who didn't want to talk to us, who didn't care about what that building did and the trauma that it caused to the families that live there. I don't want that to happen here, but I will say that it's very healing to knock doors and to hear that from the residents. And they say that they've moved here because they want community, and that they love the diversity. And I'll leave you with I, as a young Latina running for office, I think it was a little nerve-wracking at first, from growing up in Bucktown to knock the door of a 35-year-old like non-Hispanic, and when that woman answered the door and was like, "I'm with you," and she saw me as a sister, I thought that was special. So it's telling me that we have movement, and that there is change happening, and we should really embrace that, but we cannot embrace it while we still elect aldermen that are out of touch.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you very much.